Hello and welcome back to another episode.
Whoa! Hold up. Who gave you permission to do the intro?
I thought that you did, but
Now, who are you clapping for though? Yeah, no. That's better. That's what we want.
Welcome. Oh, the music's gone now.
Welcome to another episode of, what's this thing called?
let's chat about death.
Let's Chat About Death. You're joined with Chris and the annoying one opposite called Annie. Hello, Annie.
Hello, annoying Chris.
Paging Annie. If there is an Annie in the room, please come
treehouse?
forward. Yes, thank you. Bye now. How do I turn this off?
Isn't that always the classic way, though, when people get on the like two ways and things like that, and then they can't remember how to turn it off?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that just me?
I will say that's probably the clearest PA I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah. So I've got some new sound effects, so I've just been playing along with that. So I apologise if your earbuds have been blown out. Not sure what the volume is going to be like on it. So today we're going to be talking about something that is really serious, and that is grief. How people deal with it, how the different stages of grief, I guess what we should and shouldn't do to someone that's going through that process. And is grief just purely and solely for when someone passes?
No.
Okay. So what else would give you grief?
My brothers.
Apart from you.
Wow.
Yeah.
You can grieve for anything, lost relationships, lost friendships,
Yeah.
you finish a job. I grieved for a bit when I finished at my old job. Mainly because I was going to miss Danny, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that you can grieve for.
Oh, God, who's that?
Better not be Danny.
No, it's just someone dropping a parcel off. It's okay.
It's just the postie.
Don't worry about that. All lovely. So grief has so many different levels, and you can grieve over, you broke a nail, you've been in a relationship.
Your partner ate your leftovers.
Yep, that's it. It's like, you're not allowed to do that again. And he's just clearing her creamy throat. That's what she would normally say. And now she's coughing. And you've got some water beside you there,
It
too,
was
by the
extra
way.
creamy today.
So, grief. I mean, look, it's such a huge topic, and what we're probably going to talk about today is probably not even going to touch the sides in regards to it. But obviously, on a day-to-day level, we're dealing with families that at times don't show much grief. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds really weird, but you might talk to a family that in their voice isn't trembly, or they're not like upset, like they just don't have that upset sound. Or you can go out to a family home, same type of thing. Lots of laughs, and that's great. It's good to have a good laugh and about people's lives. But on the other side too, it's like sometimes, especially if they've been sick for a long time, they grieve earlier. Mm-hmm. So by the time we get to that pointy end when that person does pass away, they've pretty much done it.
Yeah, yep. I know that with my nana, she passed away a couple of years ago now, but I had spent so long grieving her while she was still unwell that when she passed away, of course I was sad, and but I think that I had already worked through a lot of my feelings about it. So my grieving process was hard, but it was a lot easier than it could have been.
And I think too, a lot of people sort of go, but how does this work? The person's no longer here. Why aren't I sad? Or I never cried at the funeral, or I never, I've only had one little episode. But that's okay too. You might have 3 months down the track that there's something that you really want to call out to her or him about, but you can't because they're no longer here. Because a lot of time when you say, well, you can still talk to them after they've gone, a lot of people go, yeah, right, good on you, mate. You know, you're a little bit loopy. But it's true. It's true. You would have heard in our previous episodes about, you know, what happens when someone dies and is there such a thing as an afterlife? I mean, it depends on where you're going with it. And you know, I guess, yeah, when someone does go, do you think that they're just hovering around, or do you think that they're you know gone into that little room that's black and it's just you? You know, that's what Annie was talking about the other day, that her greatest fear would be is to go into a room, pass away, and then be locked up in a room that's got nothing in it, like black, and that's it for all of eternity. So for a family or someone that has grieved along the way, that's not bad either. Yeah.
I heard I saw this very perfect analogy for grief. And I'm gonna draw it out for you so that you can understand what I'm talking about. But basically, grief doesn't go away. So you're going to
draw it out.
I'm going to draw it
audio,
for you specifically.
For me.
For you, I'm drawing it for you, and also because it helps me explain it.
Yeah.
But you've got a box, and in that box is a little button, and this is your grief. Pretend I wrote that. And when you first start grieving, you've got this massive ball, huge ball, takes up pretty much the entire box, bouncing around, and it keeps hitting this button because it's so big. And as time goes on, the ball gets smaller, and then you've got this big box, a button, and a very small ball, and it's still bouncing around every which way. But sometimes it's going to hit that button, and you're going to grieve again. And so over time, your grief gets smaller, but it doesn't hurt less because when it hits that button, it hurts the exact same.
Yeah, it's that trigger. And it could be someone walks past and has got someone's perfume on, or, you know, it could be a show that's on TV. It could be photos. It could be an anniversary. Yeah, that's so true, that it never goes away, no matter what people say. What do you reckon are some of the things that people shouldn't say to people that are grieving? Move on is one of them.
Yep.
Just move on. It'll be okay, you know.
Oh, I hate it'll be all right.
It's like,
well, maybe it will be, but that's not.
Yeah,
it's
like,
not right now.
We will go through that process, but I'm quite happy doing what I'm doing right now. Because if you rush things, then it builds up and builds up and builds up, and then you're going to get to a point where you're going to have to go and explode somewhere. You know?
I know that it helps a lot of people, but I hate when I'm grieving somebody who's passed away, and someone says, "Oh, they're in a better place now." I that does not help me at all.
No.
I'm sure it helps a lot of people.
Yeah.
But because it doesn't help me, it makes it, my thought of it is like, well, you know, how good is this place? They're not here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
They may be in a better place, but I'm not. You know, it doesn't help me. It doesn't give me any comfort or any solace. So I don't ever say that to people because I don't like when it's said to me.
Yeah. Look, one of the other thing is too that I guess what happens on funerals, and I mean how we have to talk to people that are grieving is going to be so different to how we deal with Joe Blogg down the street, you know, when you go get your lunch or whatever. And here I am trying to scratch my ear and realise that there's a headphone on. I look like an idiot.
He does.
And why I just announced it is totally different. But, you know, even to the likes of good morning.
Yep. Don't say good
or
morning.
How are you? But it's the tone.
If somebody asks me how I am, if you know, I'm standing at the memorial book, you know, inviting people to sign, and somebody goes, "Oh, good morning, how are you?" I'll go, "Oh, good morning, I'm well, thanks. How are you?" Unless they give it to me, I don't ever give it to them.
No.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I say hello. I don't say, "Oh, hello, welcome." I don't say good morning.
You say, hello.
Hello. Hello. Sign, please.
Tap here.
Because here's the thing, I might be having a great morning. They're at a funeral.
Oh, no, they're
I doubt they're having
crap.
a good morning.
Yeah. But it's the automatic to go to good morning, how are you? How's your day? Great weather. It's like,
Yeah.
well, it's irrelevant.
Especially coming from like a customer service background, it's so hard to sort of like snap yourself out of those little phrases or little sayings.
But if you went, and how many times have you gone through a checkout that isn't a self one, and they say, "Good morning, how are you?" And then you go, "Do you really want to know?" Because I guarantee it, they don't. They
No,
just
they don't.
that's their mechanical repetition of just saying that. And I said that one day to a checkout chick, and she didn't know what to do. She said, "But that's what we're automatically trained to do." All the past episodes that we've done on here, same thing. We're taught to do certain things. We're like robots in our own right. Grief, we don't know how that's going to be. No one can ever educate you enough on that. You could read books and watch documentaries on it, and it's going to be so different.
I had this conversation literally this morning. So one of my friends, she, I think it was her a couple years since her nan passed away today or something like that. And she messaged our group chat and she was like, "Why does nobody prepare you for the grief that you like? Why does nobody prepare you for this? Why wasn't I prepared for this?" And I said to her that there is no way to really prepare people for grieving because everybody experiences grief so differently.
So true.
So differently.
It's it's like there's certain things in life that do, there's no manual. Like, even with people that become parents or like, okay, you're only getting taught by what your parents have taught you or whatever, or, how to look after an animal. Like, oh, well, I've never had a dog before. What do I do? It's like, oh, well, you'll be right. Go to Kmart, get everything you need and you'll be right. But they don't tell you that you're going to be up all freaking night with the dog. And
then you have the trainer.
Yeah, and you got the wee mats and all that type of stuff. So grief is very, very similar to all of that. It has its complexities. That's the word of the week.
That was a big word.
I know, big word for Chris today. So, I mean, even when we think of arranging a funeral and you've got a table full of people, right? Now, I normally can read a room fairly well, okay? Trying to get me to remember names is not good. But visual, I can see them and go, okay, I think that's the brother and that's the sister and that's the mum and all of that, unless, it's a smaller group or easy names. When they've got like Indian or Sri Lankan names, you got Buckleys of getting me to remember all of that. But each of those people there have lost someone. But all 5 of those or 6 of those people all have a different stage of grief. You're going to have one. So just put it back. If people say, have you ever been in a situation with confrontation? Well, you've just walked into a bee's nest, right? So you've got one person there that's oblivious. They don't even know what's going on. We're just here, day off work, all good. The second person is just a blubbering mess, just so emotional, their connection with whoever. Third one's got arms crossed, real grumpy, like, oh, I just want to get over and punch you.
Yeah.
That was the third one. Yep. So the fourth one is just laughing, like cracking jokes, like, hey, yeah, did you hear the one about the dog and the cat? It's like, no, okay. And then you've got the fifth one that just won't talk to you. Won't even make eye contact with you. No, not interested. I'm here because I have to be here. And the sixth one is probably one that is, the straight, narrow, let's talk about it. I'm okay with it. So you might have a situation where one or two of those people were really involved in that person's life, like later in life, or had taken them out to appointments or have taken them out to that. The others may not have been there. They might have been, interstate or whatever. Or they might have had, like we've had a situation the other day where two brothers didn't see each other for like 17 years or something. Like 17 years. And now the time that you come together is when one of them is no longer.
Yep.
And, you know, you often think, and people that are going to be listening are probably going, yeah, well, it doesn't work like that. But you often think that when something happens to someone, that can actually probably reconnect your relationship slightly. It's not going to make it perfect, but you've come back together to be with these people. Long as you can get through that day, you're right. And however you deal with it is entirely up to you. You agree? So confrontation, all of that plays a big role in that whole grief process. How do I deal with all 6 of those? How would you deal with them? Like if you were sitting there having to arrange their mother's funeral, how would you approach it?
I honestly, I could not tell you.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, I've never arranged a funeral.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I would do in that situation.
So
a lot of my grief.
So if you or you were selling water.
To 60.
I know that sounds a bit silly.
Selling water to the people who are grieving?
Yeah. It's like, you know, like
I'd want to tackle them individually.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to tackle them, but I
want to take them down. I'll get whoever is the
get 'em to the
weakest
ground.
weakest link. But you have to.
I would be going more for the one who was like, yes, we need to do this.
Yeah. But having that person beside you or in front of you that can make direction, you're going to know that they're probably the stronger party, right?
Yep.
So, but what you need to do is keep all of those people involved in that process, right? So because this one here doesn't want to talk to you, right, doesn't even want to look at you, you're still going to go, Mary, what are your thoughts about that? You know? Well, I don't know, whatever. Will you be happy with the red? Everyone's agreeing with the red. We all hands up for that. So, you know, and then, I mean, the scariest one that I think that gets me is the one that wants to just jump over the counter and beat the crap out of you. That's the one that probably scares me the most. The others are not bad. Yep. Even though you're in that situation. But if you can walk out of there or any grieving situation, you know, even if it's someone's broken up with someone and they're grieving, you know, if you go in there, oh, come on, you know, move on. There's plenty of other fish in the sea. No. You know, it's like, no, this is the fish that they want to talk about. It may take a few days to really have a good upset cry and do all of that. But then, you know, down the track, it's probably something that they're going to hit. But you can't just go in there guns blazing. So it should be all right, you know. Yeah, like you said, better place now. Well, in theory, it is because they're not suffering anymore. But once again, we're only assuming that when we go from here, there is something. We can only assume that.
Exactly.
But grief, dealing with confrontation, dealing with all the other side. And the other thing is too is that we've got to keep our beliefs and our morals totally out of that.
Yeah, yep.
See, I can't go up to someone and say, I know how you feel if I've never experienced that grief before.
No.
I can only go by, okay, yeah, I lost my mum, lost my dad. Yeah, it's hard. But my story is different. Their story is different. Yeah. You know, and the one that's angry across the table, maybe that's guilt. Didn't have time, didn't get to spend time with them, or if only I did this. But each of those people around that table will have one of those processes. They're going to have times when they're angry. They're going to have times that I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to answer the phone, you know. And then they're going to be ones that are just going to laugh about it because it might be about memories, or that's the way that person copes. That's their strategy or their trigger. They're triggered by the death. Is make people laugh. You know, if I make people laugh, then I don't need to think about it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And that was my friend, we've spoken about him a few times, the one who was diagnosed with cancer. All he did was make jokes about it. He laughed and he joked and yada, yada, yada. And he always tells me, oh, you got to be careful. He's so... he drives me insane. he would always say to me, "Oh, you have to be careful, the people making jokes because they might actually be hurting and blah blah blah." I'm like, "Isn't that what you're doing though?" And he's like, "Oh no, not me though. I'm not scared of this."
No, but deep down inside, I think everyone will have a fear. But yeah, they once again they're thinking about others rather than having to think about themselves.
Yeah.
I think that's the time that you need to be. You need to concentrate on yourself. You've got to be, what do they call that? Selfish.
Selfish.
Yeah, you just need to be selfish because, if you're looking after everyone else, then you're just destroying yourself again.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
So that whole process, man. And if you don't cope through the process, then that can then affect your medical side. That can affect your whole your psyche, your mental ability to be able to move on. And like I just look at my own experience, 10 years since Mum's gone, and it's not as raw, but there's times, especially around anniversaries, that you remember that.
Yep.
You think about it, have a bit of a cry about it, and then you move on.
Yeah.
But we see people out on funerals now that it's like it's a big party. Like, "How are you, Brad? Haven't seen you in a long time, mate. How you going?" It's like, hey, Dad's in that box. He's there. Don't it's, "Oh yeah, I'm doing well, mate. Yeah, I'm doing well." Are you? Really? I don't think you are. But see, I think a lot of the men want to put on this big sort of, "I'm big burly man, I don't have to grieve,"
the brave face.
Yeah, but mate, just today's the day to cry. Like if you're going to cry today. No one's going to look at you and go, "Oh, you're a bit of a softie."
It all seems to be in sort of the generation, the whole men don't cry generation.
Yeah, well, I don't get that. I don't get that. And I think, it is that whole generation, because even when you think back to probably even grandparents, from grandparents and then their parents, it was one of those things. Men don't cry. Men, women stay home, and that's what their job is, and men are going to be the ones that go out and do the work and blah, blah, blah.
Women are the one who cry.
Yeah, that's right. But you don't know. Well, how do you know what those men are doing when they're out by themselves? So I guarantee it, if we were to get people back from those days and sit them down on a lying panel, guarantee it, they would buzz up that they've cried personally. They've cried by themselves.
Yep.
But don't come here and tell me that I can't cry when you do it.
Exactly. You just do it in secret.
A lot of people have said to me, "Well, how do you deal with it? How do you make it all better?" The hardest thing is people don't know, and you would have experienced it. They don't know, "Oh, do I approach the family? Like, is it okay to do that?" Like, of course
it is.
But that's their time. It's like, but you're coming to be there for them. Plus if you know the person that's passed, then that's different. But that's the bit where, once the funeral's over or that event is over, people just disappear. Like, so you're okay to be there when the funeral's happening, but then they disappear. Because I think people, it's like talking about death. People don't want to talk about grief either, because what does that indicate? Is that you're not in control, and that you're soft.
Yep.
And
that you're weak.
Yeah, weak, exactly. So, you don't need to have all the answers if you sit down with someone. You just need to hear what they're saying. And if they go, "What do you think?" Just like, well, what you've said sounds right. Like, and I always say to our families, just watch the lull at the end of the funeral.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that time where, okay, you've got a week to plan this. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to do this. I've got to do the photos. I've got to do the music. I've got to go and see the minister. I've got to and everyone's dropping flowers off and everyone's dropping meals off. So it's like, friggin' we're having a 50th. Yay!
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden funeral's over.
And
People go, oh, well, you don't need me anymore. I'm out of here. Then you got to think about how, and this is where what we were saying about medical is people don't eat, people don't drink, people don't care about their hygiene, they let their gardens go, they just, spend money on whatever. That's the time that people need you the most is
in the weeks, months, years after.
years
the
ahead
funeral.
is keep that going.
Yeah.
But if you can't do that in one way, then you're really not a true friend to those people.
No.
Like if you can't maintain it. But look, the classic thing is, once again, we're taught certain things, and it's like we don't want to interfere. We don't want to. It's like, no, these people need you to be there, and if they don't want you for whatever, it's okay for them to say, look, no, I'm fine. But if you know your friend or you know your relative, you're going to know if that's right or not, So, grief. I mean, even it's just working me up already. Just thinking about it. So what experiences have you had with grief? All sorts?
My own personal or
Yeah.
helping people?
Oh, anything. Like how have you felt people have been?
I've noticed that, and especially, so I have a very large family, lots of brothers and sisters. It's funny because they all seem to have a different grieving process. They all seem to have a different way of grieving. So when our nan passed away, one of my brothers was so angry. He FaceTimed me that night, and he was just he's got a disability, and he was just, why her? Like, why is this happening to me? They've taken my nana. Like, he was. I really. But because I'd done a lot of my grieving while she was unwell. When he called me and was, having a meltdown about it, which is fair enough, that was the first time that I cried, was when I was trying to support him. He broke my heart. He absolutely broke my heart. And still to this day, he talks about, like, why is she gone? And it's so sad. But one of my other brothers, he had a terrible run that year. Terrible run. He had one of his mates committed suicide. And this was, when was this? 2021. He wouldn't have even been 17 yet. But one of his mates killed himself, and then one of his other mates died of cancer. And then our nan died, and this was all probably within about 6 months. And by the end of it, he was just so exhausted, and he is very much like a big tough boy. Doesn't, no one sees him cry. Like, he's everything that he does, he tries to just do it all by himself. Or, you know what I mean? And he can't do it. And that's what we tried to tell him, and that's what we tried to talk to him about. But he seems to think that he can just.
So how has he got through the process though? He's just living with it.
Lord knows.
He's just living with himself.
He's never spoken.
I think
about
sometimes sometimes you can help and sometimes you can't. And I'm sure in their own way that they'll hopefully come forward at some point and go, well, you know what? When they are older, I did really struggle then.
Yep.
But I know you want to be able to answer it and help them now. And it's probably the most frustrating thing because you just want to grab them and shake them and go,
let something out, cry, something.
No. I'm going to show how tough I am and not show exactly how I am internally. and that's just a classic sign of it all. Or they'll go in, or they'll get themselves into some trouble. They mix with the wrong crowd, or it's like. But you just think, the person that has gone or that relationship that has gone, I'm sure they're not, hopefully not in that situation of especially relationships where, okay, they're going through their process, but they're not going to want to go and hopefully not end their lives or anything else like that. Hopefully they'll have people around them to support them too, but you can only do what you can do. I think that's the biggest thing. And grief is such an unknown thing too. But there's plenty of books on it, and this is what Joe Bloggs said back in the day, and these are the studies that are done. But no, I think every person that we come against has a different level. And we were actually even talking yesterday about how society, parents and all that are saying, oh, back in my day we were tough and we could put up with this, but generation now, you're all soft and you can't deal with this and you can't deal with that. But what did you say? It's like, well, the other generation is the one that's raised the people to be who they are today.
Yeah.
So once again, we are only getting directed by people that have taught us.
Yep.
If they were the lovey type of people that were really there and give you hugs and kisses and I love you and all that type of stuff, or whether the people that just said, or especially the boys, man up, this is what men's like, and the ladies, it's like, oh, you don't ever show a man that you're crying, and if you're going to go and do that, go and get your composure somewhere else and then come back. Whereas now, man, if people see me cry, well, good luck to you. Yeah. Doesn't make me a dummy for doing it.
It's also sorry.
No, that's all right.
No,
just cut me off.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
I have something important to say now, Chris.
Do you?
Yep.
Okay.
So what I was going to
Well,
say.
just hold on then. Hold on.
All right.
I'll get you. Yep. Tell me. Tell me your story. Tell me. Tell me now.
I was just going to say.
Yes. No music. Come back. It's like Jack on Titanic. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Don't let go. I was just going to say that it's also very
What
important.
was his story anyway? Why did he No, go on.
You know what? That door could fit both of them.
Yeah, there was no reason.
100%.
There was no reason why.
absolutely not.
Yeah, sorry, folks. We've
Probably
just
for
gone
her
off on
ego.
a tangent. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it's all about Kate
Yeah, well,
Winslet.
apparently so. Not even the good one.
No.
But I think that it's very important that, because it all starts with kids, and I think that kids should have role models of the same sex or the same gender.
Yeah.
They should have, these people that they can look up to. Our issue was my mum was very open about her feelings.
Yeah.
But my dad was very closed off. So I ended up being more like my mum.
Yeah.
And my brothers were subconsciously taught that men don't grieve openly.
Oh, no.
And that's why they are the way that they
My
are.
dad used to be like that. Same thing. Oh, yeah, don't cry. Yeah. It's like, oh, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, crazy. Yeah, I think society has certainly changed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that grief's actually got harder.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I just think it's, and I think because maybe, what we've gone through in the last 5 years or something like that, where we've had to really become inner and not wanting to deal with society and things like that, it becomes a little bit more like, I'll just deal with it.
Do you think that grief has gotten harder in the recent years, or do you think that we've just been more open about our grief in the recent years?
No, I think it's got harder. I think because people, I just think because we weren't able to see people, touch people, be close to people, hug people, all of that, in different levels,
Yep.
there wasn't that skin on skin. There wasn't that, give me a hug and then that let your endorphins and all that flow and that sense of with that person.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you were 1.5 meters away and you're going, all I would want to do is just give you a hug. It's like, well, you can't. We can, but we're going to be sharing a house for 7 days.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's become harder because no one's been able to do that connection. And now that people can start doing that, people are still sheepish because, we weren't able to do that for 2 years.
Yeah.
Or 3 years. Like,
do it now?
It's like, don't touch me.
I will say I'm so grateful, and I feel very lucky that I didn't experience a loss like that during COVID, because I mean, there were
I really feel for any family that wasn't over, like we could only have I think 5 people at one point, then it went up to 10. Woohoo! Like
exciting.
for some people they might have had 5 kids.
Yep.
Then you've got, grandparents and all that. Like it's just
then what you have to choose who.
then it
goes,
went to 30. And then that's why people were saying, well, you know what? We're just going to do the cremation or burial. We're going to have no one there because it's unfair on others. And when you think of grief, like it's an individual process, but when you don't see someone anymore and you haven't had that opportunity of getting together with family and talking about that person, I mean, on the phone or FaceTime or whatever, but it's not the same as being face-to-face, having a cuppa with them and going, let's talk about granddad, and not seeing him, not going to a funeral, not going and seeing a graveside because you're not allowed out, I really do. I feel sorry for him. And they've lost the opportunity now to grieve.
Yeah.
Because most families, and I used to say to them, I don't think you will, they go, we'll do this now, but when we're out, we'll get everyone together. No, you're not, because you're not going to want to relive that process again. You're going to want to, do your cremation and all that, do what you need to, then just, unfortunately, I'm going to use the word, but just you need to move forward and go, that was bad, we had to experience that, but move forward from that. Having to relive your grief again, it's like, and then everyone's going to be high-fiving, hey, brother, how are you? Like nothing's happened.
Yeah.
And then you're going to see a vacant bucket, or, it might be at a pub, or it might be, or you've got a box that's got granddad in it, and, you got some garden flowers, but that's not the same as seeing a coffin or the same as, crying together within that couple of weeks of someone passing. So yeah, it's very, very hard times now. Just people don't want to touch anyone. And I get a bit like that. It's like, don't touch me. Like, and it's not that I don't like that person. It's just I'm probably a little bit like I don't want to catch anything.
Yeah.
Sounds awful, but once again, you're looking out for yourself and how it's going to affect others. Yeah. So there you go. So, got anything else to say?
No, I don't think so. I think that I
Haven't got the news report? Here we are, brought to you by Annie.
Oh, I don't have anything.
No?
I've made all my points.
Oh. And I did that intro for you, and you got nothing.
Well, I tried to do an intro and you took over.
Oh, I did not.
Oh, you did.
Yeah. Is that better, princess?
Yeah. Lighten the mood a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, no, grief does wind people up, and it is a very heated subject too. Some of you may be saying, yes, I totally agree, or no, I don't. And like what we've always said, they're just our own opinions or experiences. We're not doctors in any griefiology.
No.
We're just only everyday people that are just and we're seeing it. We're seeing it every day. We're seeing different levels of grief every day. So, I find, I mean, you could talk all day really on grief, but we're not. So we won't bore you anymore with that. But thank you very much, Annie, for sharing your hmms and the heart. Yes. Agree with me. And everyone else that's been listening, thank you so much. And we look forward to that was a bit half on that. Coming back and listening to us later on. So from us here on this panel thingy, majiggy, enjoy and what was that? Oh, Annie. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.